Hello, I'm Lindley Gooden, reformed journalist and curious human. Welcome back to Explainiacs. This time, we're leaping headfirst into the world of law.
The burden of proving guilt lies with the prosecution.
But not just any law. We're meeting up with one of the UK's top legal minds in tech law, which covers a vast area from data privacy to AI and the rise of new technologies that we're yet to see. We'll be talking intellectual property, hackers, and Harvey from Suits. That's right. Plus, what does it really take to start up a startup?
You must weigh the evidence that you have heard.
This is Explainiacs 5 with Sarah Pearce. Sarah, hello.
Hi, Lindley.
Now, you currently, I think you're in your kitchen. I mean, unless you have bottles of washing up liquid in your front room.
Oh, yes, definitely in my kitchen, the front room, home office, and gym.
Wow.
Explainiacs Biography.
Okay, let's tell the world a little bit more about you. Sarah Pearce is one of the UK's leading lawyers in data privacy, security and information management. She heads up the European privacy and cybersecurity practice at the law firm Paul Hastings and co-chairs their AI group too. And she's often the person brought in to work on mergers and tech transactions on both sides of the Atlantic, helping big tech and tiny tech to bring us the next big thing. Just the person we need.
Can a good lawyer be a good person?
Lawyers give the law force, but they also give the citizen a voice.
New subject. Description.
Okay, well, let's get cracking because there are so many things that we can cover today. Your mind is a mystery to me. I want to find out what's inside it. Of course, the novices of the world like myself would have one picture in our mind, and it's Harvey from Suits, stomping in, getting fully involved in the process and the detail and trying to argue, in slightly dodgy ways. And that's nothing like the real world. It's disappointing, Sarah. It's disappointing. But
well, you and me both. He would be my future husband. So, yes.
So, Sarah, what do you actually do day to day for your clients? How does it work?
The big answer to being a lawyer.
Yeah.
You have to have an analytical mind. You have to want to actually help solve a problem, be someone that can grasp issues quickly, because ultimately a client will come to you with a question, with a problem, and they are wanting you to answer that question or problem. So you have to be able to get to the bottom quickly of what they're facing, what their challenge is, and be able to offer a solution.
It sounds quite creative, and I didn't expect that. I thought, we would be talking about what you can't do. Do you need an imagination for this job?
It's funny. A lot of people think that you can't be a lawyer if you're creative. Oh, I'm too creative to be a lawyer. That's absolute rubbish.
Right.
In fact, the exceptional players in our industry, we think out the box.
Issues. Please describe.
One thing that that many people listening to us will know about, they may even have heard the term the GDPR. What at the moment are the big issues in data privacy, do you think? Maybe things that we as customers or businesses are getting into hot water over, maybe not being secure enough.
Sure, well, that's a big topic. So thinking about sort of high levels now, I mean, obviously the focus is on COVID. And at the beginning, it was all about, the employee relationship. Then, of course, the topic of conversation moved towards everyone is working remotely. How do we ensure that data privacy and security are maintained? We've got hackers on the alert.
They're creative, and having people go home during the COVID-19 pandemic must have posed such big issues. You can't use your own laptop if you're dealing with secure data.
I advise my clients all the time to ensure that you do have a really robust incident response program that allows you to function, wherever you are, whatever you're doing.
Straight away, you've put it straight in the world of the humans. I assumed you were dealing with detail and contracts and those sorts of things, but actually what you're doing at the moment in particular is to help people to keep businesses running. Is that right? I mean, that sounds crazy.
Well, it might surprise you to know that as a lawyer, I do like to help people.
Wow.
And in order to keep a business going, you need to have good data privacy and security management in place.
Creative thinking.
The whole world
will be telling you why you're going to fail as a startup.
What role do lawyers play in this ecosystem? One is just helping companies get off the ground.
If you don't have this spirit of optimism on the team, it's very hard to succeed when the world continues to punch you in the face.
So Sarah, how can, for example, two blokes in a backpack start up a startup?
So I get involved when it comes to the legal structuring and advising on the technicalities of the deals that happen.
Yeah.
That said, in terms of, how do these two men in a backpack go and get that going? Well, there are a number of, and this is where, I've helped in the past, a number of incubators, a number of groups, a number of networking groups and so on and non-profit organizations that actually help these tech companies through. And I've worked with a lot of those in the past. And you do meet with them, have an initial conversation about their product and think about the legal issues they should be thinking about as they go through their looking for funding, for example.
Is it at all relevant to you as somebody who is guiding the process through with investors and so on to get excited about the sort of product or that new business? Yeah,
totally.
Right.
And very often you can tell whether it is a product that, nice idea, guys, but there's kind of a few of those outside already. Or it's, that's an awesome idea. Right. There are some that you can certainly see a future for, and you can certainly see, they're going to get a significant amount of funding, and before too long, if they raise their profile, they're going to get the attention of someone that might want to acquire them, or at least invest in them.
How does it work?
Let's move on to the sort of nuts and bolts of investment. You still need to qualify for investment. You still need to look at stripping apart your potential, the product, but also the way it's going to develop, and then convince others that it's worthwhile putting some money into. So, what do I as a startup, rucksack on my back, need to think about?
Well, that is key, and it's good to sort of take that step back, because sometimes what I have seen very often at these sort of incubator meetings where they might set up sort of it's like a speed dating. You get a selection of potential hopers, looking for funding to come in, and a bit like pitching. So going back to that point, what you need to do is have a pitch. Before even thinking about, you may have an absolutely fantastic idea that's going to be a huge success. But before you go and talk about it to anyone, have an idea of what, for example, think about IP, intellectual property. Is there any intellectual property in what you are looking to develop that you need to protect? Certainly, when you go and have conversations, for example, get an NDA in place. You don't want to start having conversations and the first person you speak to thinks, that's a really good idea. I'll go and develop my own.
Please, explain more.
Do you have people come to you who don't really understand what intellectual property they have?
Yes, very much, all the time. In fact, there are a number that say, well, that's not IP. Yes. If you are, for example, I had this recently, you own a bunch of restaurants, you've got a brand, maybe the name of a person, a particular chef, but you've got a brand. Yeah. That is intellectual property that needs protecting.
Right.
So my sort of first point really is that you need to think about what you've got, what needs protecting, get an NDA in place, but develop a pitch. Think about what you're trying to launch, what you're trying to sell as a good idea, and develop a pitch. Yeah. And where I come in then, of course, I can say, well, okay, so they need to be able to show X, Y, Z in terms of data privacy, security, IT, IP, at least to have a minimum of that. And it's effectively due diligence.
Are there recurring issues that come up, possibly because people haven't prepared properly or they haven't protected themselves?
Yes. Say we're looking at a tech acquirer. that is looking at a particular company, and that company has clearly, obviously, using a lot of personal data as critical to its product, hasn't even thought about complying with data protection rules. I would need to alert my client, the acquirer, because you can't go ahead and take that product forward without getting compliant, or at least taking steps to become so. So that's sort of, could be a red flag.
Explainiacs. Lessons to learn.
What wakes you up in a cold sweat at night in terms of data privacy? Do you have nightmares that you see people just falling into these horrific little mistakes all the time?
I think one of the big things is actually when you see a company using technology, a third-party provider of technology, that they haven't properly vetted.
Yeah.
They haven't properly done the third-party management diligence.
Yeah.
And that third party could be someone that really doesn't have data privacy underpinned, and ultimately they get hacked, maybe, or their security is easily broken, if you like. And then that then infiltrates into the other companies, the company that's receiving that technology. They then get hacked and suffer a data breach because they're processing a load of personal data.
Explainiacs. Predictions.
As we look to the future, one thing that coronavirus will bring to us is much more home working, possibly. I think it will. And also the way we speak and communicate and the third-party software that we use will probably become more. So do you think this could be the biggest risk going forward, certainly in the next year or two?
I think it will be one of the biggest, yes. I do foresee that, I have been saying actually for some time that I think the security is a big issue, and the hackers, activists, there's a whole wealth of names you can give these cyber criminals. They are developing ever sophisticated ways of infiltrating. And so I think that is going to become an issue. And then, of course, you've got the whole sort of side angle of cyber warfare. What will that become? Could it become something?
Well, could it become something? Really large breaches which are blamed on governments every other day of the week?
No, I don't think it's going to be a thing every other day of the week, talking candidly.
Yeah.
Let's hope not.
Yes.
Otherwise, we're in trouble.
Final couple of quick questions. Sarah, do you still love it?
I do love what I do. I'm very fortunate. Technology is constantly evolving. And I find it interesting and exciting, and the issues arising from it. So for me, it keeps me on my toes.
Well, way back when you were qualifying to be a lawyer of whichever type you qualified to be, would there have been one bit of advice that would have been really useful to your younger self?
I think I've actually said this recently to a few people. It's worry less.
That's it. Very good advice. I do think that's probably all we have time for without me having to sign a very serious non-disclosure agreement. We'll keep on talking after we finish. But thanks, Sarah, very much for e-meeting today and giving us a real hint of what's behind the deals, the delivery, the potential for startups to do what they want to do next. Also the potential dangers to avoid in this continuously changing tech market. Now, I'd love to hear from you. This podcast is all about hearing from passionate experts at the top of their fields who have a mind full of fascinating facts, a lifetime of knowledge that only they can explain. It doesn't matter what they do best. It only matters that they can help us to understand it. So it's very easy. Just get in touch at explainiacs.com and let's hear their story. Get in touch. For now, it's time to go. Thanks for listening. Like, subscribe, and share if you've learned something fun or interesting. And I'll see you again very soon in a couple of weeks' time. Until then, bye-bye.